Alrighty, yo, what is going on everybody? It's your boy Mr. DDG94 back with another reaction video. Today we finna react to why brands stop using mascots, man. The brand stopped using mascots. Probably because they scare kids and the world is too fucking sensitive about mascots. Why does it have to be a clown? Why can't the clown be a she clown? Why can't the clown be a gay clown? Why does the clown have to identify as gender? You see why we can't have good shit no more? Because the world is fucking stupid. But anyways, though, without further ado, let's get right into this.
Mascots. Everyone used to have one, and no one really does anymore. Maybe you remember Pepsi Man, the Noid, the McDonald's characters, or Ronald himself, who was shelved for surprisingly dark reasons. While some companies still use mascots, they are far from the iconic and controversial characters of the past. Today, it's hard to imagine a chrome superhero being the face of Pepsi, or a character like Marfalump as anything but the antagonist of a fever dream. So where did they go? And who allowed this?
Pepsi Man!
Through a series of live-action commercials and one of the weirdest titles on the PS1, Pepsi Man graced the screens of televisions in the late 90s to the 2000s. For a time, he wasn't alone, with Pepsi Woman and some interesting physics appearing in a single ad for Diet Pepsi Twist. He even had a smellable action figure labelled as the fucked, not fact, of Pepsi Man. Originally developed by Pepsi's Japanese branch, all of the advertisements, despite featuring locations in the US, were shown in Japan. In these, he would appear out of nowhere to deliver drinks to those in need, raising his hand and opening his mouth like a Dementor. The true extent of his powers remained relatively unclear, with some ads depicting immense and debilitating suffering despite his hard chrome exterior. What I really like about these is that the animators seemingly had a lot of fun and creative freedom in production. Movements were over the top and often featured random incursions of dynamic dance sequences. All this aside, Pepsi Man was a genuinely impressive use of CGI in the 90s. At a time when computer imagery was still quickly evolving, it went above and beyond the scope of many similar projects. Perhaps unsurprisingly, this was because it was done by Industrial Light and Magic, a product of Lucasfilm and the visionaries behind Marfalump. Moving forward, 1999's Pepsi Man was released in Japan for the PS1. It had a similar core premise to the ads, saving people from dehydration by delivering cans of Pepsi. Despite initial sales being poor, it gained traction years later and became something of a classic. It has since been remade multiple times, albeit at the hands of fans. Pepsi Man even saw a resurgence in the form of memes, developing a cult-like status in the West. From where I'm sitting, this seems like an example of extremely effective marketing. The fact that a game and a mascot well over 20 years old are still known and positively tied to a brand makes you wonder why Pepsi has since abandoned the chrome superhero entirely. There's probably a good reason you haven't heard of Marfalump. Created in '99, this creature was Pepsi's mascot for their tie-in with Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. He kind of looked like Jar Jar in Anaphylactic Shock, with the exception of having 4 arms, 2 antennae, and 0 pants. For the short time he was around, you could spot him in a number of commercials, where one showed him alongside Jake Lloyd in a theatre, another had him doing impressions of the cast in a promotion for some limited cans. He was actually voiced by Billy West, the man behind Fry and Ren and Stimpy. Anyway, you're probably wondering about the rationale behind the Marf. Why the shirt, for starters? If it wasn't obvious from the commercials, Pepsi's idea was in fact quite simple. Apparently, it wasn't about Pepsi or Star Wars, it was about creating a character that loved both. On this front, they were undeniably successful. Marfalump looked the part and probably enjoyed a little too much of each of them. The problem, I think, is that this doesn't necessarily make you want to indulge in either. Ultimately then, he came across as less of a traditional, idealistic mascot and more of a caricature of an unhealthily obsessed fan. Considering the atmosphere around Star Wars at the time, this did make a little bit more sense, which you can see in the team's optimism for his release.
He's the connection between that fantasy that George Lucas is creating and that people are just going to have a blast with this summer. And Pepsi.
Unfortunately, the hype wasn't enough, and Marf quickly fell into obscurity. His appearance didn't really resonate with that many people, and if it did, they weren't leaving their basement just to buy Pepsi. And so, after around a year, he disappeared completely. Today, a life-size model supposedly remains at Lucasfilm, acting as a strange reminder of simpler times for the franchise. If you grew up in the 90s or the 2000s, you probably remember when the walls of McDonald's looked something like this. Perhaps you did time in the Grimace cage, or even jeweled over the game kiosk.
Oh man, don't take me back. Don't take me back. Oh my god. Why? Why are you taking me back to the good old times, man? Come on, dog. Excuse me, bless me. Why you taking me back to the good times, dog? Why you taking me back to the good old times, man? When all that kiosk, man, motherfucking Mario Kart. They had motherfucking Mario Kart and NBA Live, and they had some other games on there too. But it's mostly like NBA Live and Mario Kart, bro. Some of the best times, bro. Some of the best times, bro, to be at the McDonald's, dog.
Either way, this collection of characters was synonymous with the company for years. Ronald was first introduced as far back as 1963, with Grimace appearing soon after in the 70s. Given their popularity, their relatively sudden disappearance may have come at a surprise. It started around 2003, with the successful introduction of the I'm Lovin' It campaign. With this, McDonald's began to phase out characters like Grimace and the Hamburglar. By leaving behind most of their more cartoony mascots, they not only responded to criticisms about marketing to children, but also emphasized a more modern, lifestyle-oriented approach. Of course, Ronald remained a central part of advertising for quite some time after the culling, despite not entirely aligning with their new direction. However, as the 2010s rolled around, this would come to a grinding halt. If you were online at all in 2016, you likely remember the rumours and speculation surrounding clown sightings. Pictures would float around of them lurking on the side of the road, near forests or empty parking lots. How much of this was ever real is up for a pretty one-sided debate, as realistically, most of these were simply staged or opportunistic pranks. Regardless, while not the only reason, this acted as the nail in the coffin for Ronald's mainstream use. Following the sightings, McDonald's announced a hiatus for the mascot that all but eliminated his appearances. Going further, it wasn't just the mascots that changed. Like a lot of companies, their restaurants shed the use of bright primary colours in favour of more modern and subdued palettes. Red roofs were replaced by brown, squared-off facades and architecture, reflecting a more mature and refined aesthetic. In line with this, it's unlikely we'll ever see a real return of the characters. Aside from brief and bizarre resurgences like the Grimace Shake epidemic, McDonald's seems keen to keep their distance. These are easily the most unsettling and bizarre mascots in this video. Created in 2003, the Spung Monkeys were a pair of deformed rodents with human mouths. The first appearance of these creatures online was in a flash animation made by Joel Veach on his website.
I only remember these because UPN used to run these ads into the fucking ground. And it seemed like it was only UPN that was running this ad into the fucking ground. Every time you turn on UPN, you watching something on UPN, this ad was playing non-fucking stop. I remember one time watching Everybody Hates Chris. UPN played this ad 3 times back to back in a row. They played like 3 different ads for Quiznos.
Soon after it was uploaded and it gained some traction, he got a call from the fast food chain Quiznos. This ultimately spawned a series of unorthodox commercials where the pair sang about everything from the subs to coupons. If you're confused about what the hell they even are, you're definitely not alone. Back in 2004, they were referred to as gerbils with birth defects, hell lemurs, and Mr. Potato Rats. Their ambiguity didn't help the public's response to the ads, with many finding them irritating, confusing, and disturbing. With such a polarizing reception, the commercials showed up less and less as Quiznos quickly moved back to more traditional methods of advertising. Regardless, I find these especially interesting, as it provides an early example of internet culture seeping into mainstream marketing. Clunky and kind of awkward, it demonstrates how hard it is to successfully mesh the two. This is a problem that has been replicated many times since, with some examples being far more painful than others. Despite this, people still remember the Quiznos mascots to this day. Traumatic or otherwise, they kept people thinking about the brand, having a meme-like status not dissimilar to Pepsi Man. And, after all, that's far from the worst outcome. So, yes, a lot of companies stopped trying to create iconic and recognizable mascots as part of their marketing. Many today only exist as part of a logo, being continuously simplified if not cut out entirely and left behind. Things like the Arby's oven mitt would never make it out of the boardroom, let alone receive millions of dollars in funding. And in the realm of using real people as mascots, this has proven risky at best.
In the criminal justice system, sexually based offenses are considered especially heinous. In New York City, the dedicated detectives who investigate these vicious felonies are members of an elite squad known as the Special Victims Unit. These are their stories.
Still, if things like Pepsi Man and Ronald McDonald are so memorable, why aren't they on your TV right now? Well, a lot of it comes down to trying to appeal to the most people possible. As I mentioned with Marfalump, only a select few can relate to or even stomach this kind of character at all, with even less likely to be encouraged to buy the advertised product. For others, like McDonald's, it was an issue with brand image. By promoting these more childish mascots and designs, they limited their appeal to older customers. This also came at a time when more eyes were on issues related to children and obesity, making it problematic to link the two in any way. Social media and the nature of digital marketing are other big reasons we see less and less mascots. Specifically, with fewer people consuming traditional TV programs, more eyes are on influencers for entertainment and information. Thanks to these individuals, brands can assume some of your own interests and then deliver paid promotions through a vessel you consciously chose. This is opposed to investing time and money into trying to make a mascot as widely appealing as possible, only to have it shunned. If you go back and watch The Birth of Marfalump, you can see the consequences of staking so much in an animated character.
Bro, why do you keep bringing this up? Nobody cares about this, bro. This is a Star Wars ad character, bro. You could use better examples than this weak-ass character that nobody fucking remembers. Because not everybody is a Star Wars nerd.
It has the potential to not only crush resources and time, but also hopes and dreams.
I think this thing is just going to be the embodiment of joy. And you're going to love this little guy.
Again, these are investments, meaning another thing to consider is longevity. With the life cycle of memes having gone from years to days, interests and trends are far more fleeting. This makes it harder to appeal to younger demographics, who are most often the target of mascots in the first place. While something might be popular today, it's impossible to know whether anyone will even recognize it in a year. For instance, even when Grimace was briefly summoned in 2023, he only retained relevance for about a month. This makes it risky to plan out future endeavors, or have recurring characters in ways that worked in the...
He could have lasted more than a month if they really just... Because once the Grimace Shake started getting it popping, they really didn't promote it anymore like that. I think they promoted it for like the week it was popping, and then they just stopped. It was like, yeah, whatever. We don't care about the Grimace Shake. It's about to end anyway. So it's like the company's not even making the effort to even promote mascots anymore. Like everybody was fucking with Grimace because we all remember him. We missed the Ronald McDonald's. When they gonna do a Hamburglar? That's what I'm waiting on. When we gonna do a Hamburglar? He was the real one.
The past. Having a sort of storyline across multiple ads is now extremely ambitious. In short, while all of these were undoubtedly interesting characters, these kinds of mascots are quickly becoming things of the past. Regardless of their previous effectiveness and the creativity they brought to commercials, it's just not a leap big companies are willing to take anymore. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you enjoyed.
Yeah, man, whatever. But anyway, so that's just gonna about do it for this one, man. Hey, man, brands not using mascots, like I said, man. The society we live in today is too sensitive. They can't handle things, they get scared. If they get scared, they go online and start complaining, and then it starts getting backlash, and then the next thing you know, companies like, oh, we're sorry, we're not going to do it again, and then they throw the character away. So that's why we don't get mascots no more. That's why we can't identify these brands no more. You know what I'm saying? We can't identify them no more. But yeah, man, that's just going to about do it for this one. I will see you all in the next video. Till then, peace out.